Hello everybody and welcome to my studio. My name is Lonna and I am an acrylic artist specializing in decorative painting. I am so happy that you stopped by to paint today. We're going to be doing a fun fall project. I think you're going to love it. It's going to be so cute and fun, and you can really change this project up to make it more your own by how you interpret these little guys. This is what we're going to be doing. I've titled this The Boo Crew. It's on my vintage sign plaque on my website, lonnalamb.com, but you can certainly paint it on any surface that you have. We are going to use Deco Art Americana acrylic paints on this project, and you can have so much fun with this one. I mean, really change the colors of the pumpkins, their expressions, and look at that cute little frog just sitting on that pumpkin right there. This is bright and vibrant. I'm not sure if it's translating that way right here in this clip, but this is a very vibrant little Halloween sign to hang up, and you could put a message on it. You could write stuff around the border. So many ways that you can really have a good time with this one. So if you're ready, let's grab our supplies and let's get painting. Okay, we've got our surface prep. Let me tell you how I prepped my surface. Applied a coat of multi-purpose sealer with a damp 2-inch foam roller, but you can also use a damp artist sponge to do that. And then applied 2 coats, once it was dry, applied 2 coats of lamp black with whichever tool I'm using to base coat, and let it dry, and then I gave it a light sanding just with a brown paper bag. So then I transferred on just the basic lines of my pattern, and I may be adding some other stuff on here. I haven't decided yet because that's just how I design. But I did mark off 1 inch all the way around with a compass. Just pulled it out to 1 inch and marked all the way around. So we're going to start by painting in that border first. Let me move some of these tools out of the way. We're going to be needing, after we get it painted in, some kind of stippling sponge, but for now we're just going to work on getting it painted in. So I'm going to use citron green and white. I'm going to mix an equal amount of these 2 colors and get a bright opaque green. And you can tape off your border if you would like to. I'm just going to paint it on with a 3/4 inch brush and just go right up to that line. We're going to have a nice bright border. We want we have to mix white with it to get it a little bit opaque, because citron green is a little bit more transparent of a color, but we'll probably come back in and just kind of wash some of that citron green over it once it's dry. So we're just following the shape of our border, whatever kind of surface you're doing. This is a surface that's on my website, so you can pick this up there. And we're just going to take our time and go all the way around and do 2 coats. So I'll finish this first coat on camera. I will let mine dry, and then I will come back and apply a second coat. I'm not going to worry if I get outside my lines, because it's a black background so far, and I can just come in and touch that all up. This is going to be a fun little Halloween project. I love painting fall. Probably my favorite season of all to paint. Alright. I'm almost done with my first coat. I want it to dry completely. back and do a second coat. And then I probably, before we do anything else to it, we'll come back and put a little wash of that citron green on there, because I want this border to really be a statement. So I'm gonna let it dry, get my second coat on, and then we'll come back and see what other fun stuff we're gonna add to this border. Okay, so I've got my 2 coats dry on here, but I think I'm gonna wash a little bit of citron on here. So I'm just gonna thin some down with some water, and then just apply a little thin coat on here to get this nice and bright before we go on to our next step. I'm not going to worry too much about the brush strokes that I have in here, because I think we're going to do a little bit more to this border. And I'm going to clean up on the inside of it after we're done, because our next steps may, that's what I like about having a black background. Very fun, very easy to clean up if you get a little bit on it that you don't want. Just grab your black paint and paint it right over it, and works out great. So I'm going to get this dry real quick. We'll come back and do some more fun stuff. Okay, let's move on to the next step on our border. I gave it a little test here to see how I was going to like it. I think it's going to work out great. We're going to use the color Jewel Green, and if you've got a bright kind of bluish green, you can leave it just the color that it is. You can not have a border, totally up to you. But I'm going to get a little bit on a stippling sponge. You can use a sea sponge, you can use a regular sponge, you can use a stippling brush. Whatever you like to use. I used to sell these sponges on my website, but I sold out of them and haven't found the material to get any more. So it's just damp, and I'm just working a little bit into it. I'm going to tap off on my paper towel because I just want to do this along the edge out here. Decide if I want to bring it in all the way. Not very much paint on my sponge here, just lightly tapping. A little bit more paint. A little bit darker as we come down to the corners. I like the corners to be a little bit darker. And I'm just going to work my way all the way around. Just giving a little tap, twisting of the sponge, just lightly tapping. You can take the damp side and kind of blend it just a little bit. Create this fun little textury border out here, and you can go all the way in to the edge. I'm not sure that I want that. I might scoot a little bit up in there, but not completely fill it. I'm just making little dots everywhere. So, you know, however you like the look, that's what I want you to go for. So I'm just bringing it over all the way to the edge, just a little bit. I've got most of it out here on the border, so I'm just adding a little tiny bit up to that black. Okay. I did go over the black a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm just going to leave the border there for now. I want to work on the design, and as it develops, I may want to add something else out here on the border. But for now, I'm just going to keep those 2 colors. I may tap some white in there later, but that's all I'm going to do. So we're done with the sponge, and if you want to go in and touch up anything before we move on, now's a good time to do that with your black, and then we're going to start working on our pumpkins. Alright, our border's dry. Touched up any black area that we need to. We're not going to add anything else to it until we get done with the inside parts. Now we're going to add our undercoats and our base coats. So first on our pumpkins, we want to undercoat them because orange is typically a little bit of a transparent color. So we're going to mix moon yellow. Moon yellow with, I've got cad orange on my palette here. So I'm just going to mix those two together. I've got water spritzed on my palette over here. So just going to make a little bit of an opaque color. More moon yellow in there. And this is just going to undercoat, since we're on such a dark background. Even if I wasn't on a dark background, I would probably still undercoat with this mix just to get a nice opaque coverage. I'm not going to worry about the frog's feet there. That's too small of a detail to worry about trying to go around. So I'll just paint right over the frog's feet. And then when I paint the frog in, we can add the feet back in. Okay. I didn't quite leave the way I wanted it to look for that, but when I paint that in, it will all come together. Okay, so this one over here, I want it to be more of a white pumpkin. So I've got some oyster beige out. I want it to be a little bit gray for my undertone, so I'm going to add a tiny little bit of black into it and get this really light gray color. You can paint all your pumpkins in orange colors if you would like. That's what I typically do, but I decided to mix it up a little bit here. To a little bit smaller brush in that section there. I'll see if I can get it in. Now we're going to put I know I'm going to put 2 coats on that one of my undercoat. This one might be good with 1 coat of paint. We'll just have to see how it looks when it dries. Okay, so that's a good undercoat for this one. And now the last pumpkin I'm going to undercoat with a more of a golden color, and we'll be adding oranges onto that. So we've already got moon yellow, but I'm going to add the what color do I have here? It's deep ochre. So we'll see how this one turns out. I think once we put oranges on top of this one, it's going to look different. I want the 2 on the outside to look completely different than the one on the center there. So just moon yellow and the deep ochre. Mix them together. This is undercoating, so you know you don't have to worry about is the stress an equal mix. It's just a mix. Just grab some of each color and mix it, and maybe you need a little bit more ochre, maybe you need a little bit more of the moon yellow. Alright, and we'll just smooth that out, and this one will need a second coat on it, so we'll probably just put second coats on all of them just to get them all nicely painted in. Alright, so while we have our yellow here, let's paint in our moon with our moon yellow. And I will go off camera and do all my second coats on everything that I'm going to be undercoating. I'm not going to paint the frog in yet because I want to get all the coats on the pumpkin and then come back in for the frog. And oops. Well, I'm walking up my moon shape here. Alright. I want this side to be a little bit longer. Don't be afraid to adjust things. You know, once you've traced them on there, if you're painting them and they don't quite look right, go ahead and make adjustments as you're painting. Okay. Alright, so I think those are the only elements that I'm going to undercoat for now. So I want to get them all dry and apply a second coat to them. And then we're going to come back and put our top layer of paint on this one. These other two, we'll probably just leave them the color that they are. We'll see how this develops here. So let me get my second coats on. Alright, we're going to put, I've got my two coats on everything. We're going to put a coat of just the cadmium orange on this one. And it may take two coats. Cadmium orange is a little bit, well, all oranges, I guess, I've already said that, are a little bit more on the transparent side. Cadmium orange, not as much as some of them, but yeah, it's like a semi-opaque, so I probably will apply two coats on here. So we'll just do that. I'll go off camera and get my second coat on here. Nice, smooth, even coats. Mix a little bit of water in with your paint so you're putting, you know, thinner coats on here so you won't have a lot of brush strokes and ridges in your paint. This will keep your paint being a little bit more smooth as you paint it on. A bit of a ridge of paint there. So, and then just lightly smooth it all out. And I'll let it dry, and then I'll just do like a wash of the cad orange over it after this one dries. After this one right here dries. Okay, so this one's not quite dry here, but I want to do something to the background. So I'm going to take a dry little scruffy brush. I want to put like some eerie cloud-like stuff in the sky. So we're going to try this and see how it works. We're going to use a turquoisey blue. I've got Calypso Sky, but if you've got just regular turquoise, that will be just fine. And then I've got a purple, I've got brilliant purple, but lavender would work just as well. So whatever color that you have, I'm going to load a dry brush and then offload quite a bit of it. Oh, I laid it on there. That wasn't dry, so I just pulled paint off of there. I want to just scrub some of this into the sky. Now it's not going to be real noticeable at first on this black background, but I think it's going to give the sky a nice little eerie texture. Bring it down a little bit over here beside. It's okay if you get into your pumpkin and all that stuff, you know, we'll be blending colors. I'm going to load again because I want a few of these places to be a little bit more bright. And you can take a much smaller brush than what I'm using here and get some thinner little cloudy stuff coming onto it. So I'm going to try and clean the brush out now and then add some purple. Remove some of that. And I'll put a little bit of purple in here. I'm using Brilliant Purple, but use what you have. Halloween colors, it's what we're doing here. So that gives a little bit of eerie glow in the background. I really like that. I think what I might do is add a little tiny bit of white. Let me grab some white into my turquoise color, which is Brilliant Blue. No, it's Calypso. Get my colors right here. Try and work some of that purple out of my brush. Let me get some of this purple out of it. I could grab another brush, but they're behind me. Not easily accessible, so I'm just going to clean this brush. Grab a little bit of white and mix it in with that turquoise, just a little bit, and then I'm going to offload. So you can already see how much lighter that is than what the turquoise was. So offload, and then we'll put a little bit of this in here. A little bit more. I really should go to a smaller brush. I grabbed the biggest one. It was because it was laying here beside me from another project instead of going back and getting a smaller one. So I highly recommend you get a little bit smaller scruffy brush than what I've got here to create your spooky little sky back here. Okay, and when you bring your sky down, bring it down, you know, at least a third, close to a halfway to where your pumpkins are. And if you get it too dark, just wash some black over it and that will tone it back down. Okay, so that has our sky done and our undercoating for our pumpkins done. So we're ready to move on from here. Alright, I think our sky is looking good. So we're going to take our pencil. You can lay your pattern on here and do it however you would like. We're going to start creating our sections in here. So we know we're going to have one big one right here in the center and maybe one that comes over this way. Well, let's bring it down this way a little bit more and then this way. And I don't quite like that one there, so let me adjust it, bring it down that way, and then we'll have one that comes here and then one here. So we've got our sections there for that one. You can go ahead and add sections on your other ones as well. Just put as many sections as you would like to see on there. I mean, you may want less than what I'm doing. And this one might have a little bit of one back there. So I think that looks pretty good for our sections. I feel like these need to come down a little bit. Alright, let's start doing some shading on this orange one. The one in the middle is the one we're going to work on first. So I think I'm going to take my Cad Orange, which is the wash that we put over the top of this. And I'm going to mix some burnt orange with it. We'll just put both those out on our palette. And I'm just going to brush mix 1 to 1 here. I think I might go to a smaller brush though. Let's see, I've got a 3/8 inch angle here. I'll move down to that size. So we'll just mix those two together. They're very close. This one's a little bit more orange, so it may not give you much color change. You could go with just the straight burnt orange. Just make sure your first layer is light. Yep, it's not going to show up with that mix. So let's see if burnt orange by itself is going to show up. I might have to add the cad red to it. Alright, burnt orange is just too dark. So here we go. This is how I design. Let's grab some cad red out. And we'll try it for our first layer. See if it's got enough punch to cover up that cad orange. So let's see. Alright, I think that's going to be good for our first layer. This is cad red. Yes, cadmium red. And we're just going to go right next to all those lines that we put on there. Water on my palette. My brush is very dry. Alright, I want more paint on there because I want to make this a little bit wider as we get to the bottom. Okay, this is just cad red. We'll do all of our sections here. Up on the toe when I'm going into these really tight areas here. Alright, so there is our first coat on that pumpkin. So while it's drying, we're just going to move over to the next pumpkin. So this one is the one I'm going to use the cadmium orange on and create our sections on this one. Definitely need more water, a lot more paint in my brush. Nice soft color there. I'll move to the next one. And then this one. And then we'll flip around and do it's right next. We're doing right next to each line that we drew on there. So okay. So this one over here, we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to use a little bit of black. And our base color that we use, oyster beige, just a tiny bit. We're just going to make a dark gray. And we're going to use this for our color and see how this looks. Use the water edge of your brush to keep it off of that other pumpkin there. If you get some on it, just clean it off. A little more water. Just want to soften that out a little bit. Okay, that looks pretty good for the beginning here on each one of them. I think that they're going to be rather cute pumpkins on this particular design. All right. All right, I'm going to erase my lines that I put on here. You can see where our sections are now, so we don't need these lines. We're going to work right now just on the middle pumpkin, and then we'll come and then we'll go out and work on the other two. We'll work on them one at a time. Remember, eraser shavings. Go away from your paint. Never brush it towards your paint. Alright, so let's work on this one here. So I want to darken up a little bit where my shading is and create a little bit more shading at the bottom. First, I want to put some at the bottom. So we're going to go back to that cad red onto my larger angle brush here. It's a 1/2 inch angle. And I want to put some of this down at the bottom. And just bring it up a little bit. Create that little shadow there. Alright, let's darken here. So this is where I'm going to go into my burnt orange because it should show up on top of our cadmium red now. We're not going to go out as far. Might have to bring a little bit more of the cad red in. So let's do that first because I feel like the cad red needs to be out a little farther onto our sections, especially these bigger sections. So let's bring some of that out. As we add our layers of color, we want to do less and less on here. I also want to put some of this along the bottom here of just the center section. This is our cad red. Bring it out into our sections a little bit more. A little bit more paint here. We don't want to fill up our sections, we just want to bring that over a little bit. Okay, so now we should be okay to add some burnt umber on here. Or burnt orange, not burnt umber. Burnt orange. Which I do need to get burnt umber out for my stems. So we're going to put this color in. And boy, that's just really, really... I'm not liking that on top of that orange there, or that orangey red. Let's see if some Georgia clay will give a little bit different color to it. Okay, that's not so bad. Georgia clay's got a little bit more of the orange in it. So we'll just come along with this right there, close to our original line. This is Georgia clay. And just a little bit in here. Just to darken up those sections a little bit, and then I want this along the bottom. Bring it up just a little bit. Especially on this center one. I'll tap with my finger to kind of tap that out. So that's got our darkening of our sections there. Begin with a little bit of highlight on here. Not really sure what color is going to show up really well on this dark orange. My favorite color to use is Tangelo Orange. That one's been discontinued, but if you have that color, that's the one that I would grab and use. This is Orange Flame, and it's not too bad. So we'll put this in the center section here, and then we're going to go on the opposite side of our lines that we put all of our dark color in here with. And if you have some favorite colors that you like to use for your fall projects, then you can switch these colors up and use colors that appeal to you or go with your decor. So that looks pretty good for our first highlight on there. So we want to brighten that one now. So I've got some bright yellow. So I'm going to mix the bright yellow and the orange flame that we just put on there. So I'm just going to brush mix it. I've already got the orange on my brush, so I just dipped into the yellow there, and we'll put some of this on. And I'm not going to cover the entire line, just kind of the center area of that line. Or maybe on this left side I'll be closer to the top, since the moon will be hitting it more here. If you have to mix more, do a equal mix, and if it doesn't show up, add a little bit more yellow to your mix. Okay, so we've got a nice little highlight there. I want to go with our highlight one more time and brighten it up with just the bright yellow. So I think I'll wash my brush out to get as much of that orange out as possible, and just pick up the bright yellow, and we'll really just brighten. We've got to put our faces on here, so I'm not going to worry about getting stuff extremely bright until after we get our faces on here. So I'm going to keep this more to the top part of the pumpkin, where maybe the moonlight is hitting it a little bit more. Alright, I've got my facial features transferred on to this pumpkin. So I'm going to paint the inside sections with black. Just get them to match as close as you can. And then we have this big section here. And you'll probably may need to come at, I'm not going to say probably, but you may need to come back in and apply a second coat on here. I always add a little bit of water to my paint so that I'm getting thinner layers, smoother layers, but you can use just straight paint and paint it in. Just whatever you like to do or prefer to do will work just fine. Okay, so that's got his mouth basically opened in there with just the black. I'm going to add a little bit of bright yellow just onto the edge of the little section area here that's creating the thickness of the cutouts. I'm putting this right next to the black. Ooh, that's a lot of paint there. Try and stay off of the black because that will make green. Section down here. Okay, then the rest of the section, because I don't want it to look like the pumpkin sections as much, I think I'm going to take my Georgia clay and I'm going to definitely thin that down so it's a nice flowy consistency here. And we'll put this in out here. Ooh, that was like crazy amount of paint there. And then we can remove our lines, and that's going to help us see things a little bit better. So if we want to change anything, we can tell where we're going. And I definitely need to put the bright yellow back over here because I just covered it up with that orange. And up here on this one. I lost my bright yellow. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Let me erase my lines and we'll see. I think we might want to shade a little bit around all this stuff. And that will help set it all in here. I have to add a little bit of black into this one because I can see some orange coming through there. Okay, so I think I am going to shade around these. So I'm going to take my Georgia clay and a little bit of black. It's going to make a dark orange. And let's see, maybe just a tiny bit more black in there. Finger and kind of smooth that out a little bit. This is Georgia clay and a little bit of lamp black, a nice sheer float. I'm not using heavy paint here. Just going around everything here. this is an extremely sheer float, so don't let it get too dark. We can come back and darken. So on this one here, I'm going to go ahead and do the outside edge here. Everything else has been on the left side, or the right side, but we need to define this a little bit more over here. So just a little floating there. Of course, you can go all the way around the entire mouth and eyes and nose if you want to. I'm going to put a little reflective light inside the eye. With just some white. Thin that down just a little bit. Alright, that looks pretty good. You can add as much detail to that as you want, but I think that's pretty good for this guy's face and everything. I might come back in here in a minute and darken just down here at the bottom with that mix. Actually, I think I'll just go ahead and do it right now. That was Georgia Clay. Good grief, I'm not going to remember this color for nothing. And a little bit of black. At the bottom down here. No, we need more black. Ooh, that's a lot of black. Don't need that much black. More water. Thin it down. Alright. So let's make sure we define our section areas down here a little bit more. Mop all of that, and this area down here is really in the shadow because the moon is above, so this part is darker, so we need to kind of make it a little bit darker. We're going to work on this pumpkin now. So our first shading on it was with burnt orange. Burnt orange. So I'm just actually going to repeat that color. Actually, yeah, cat orange. Cat orange is what I use, not burnt orange. So let me go into my cat orange, and I'm going to add a little bit of burnt orange to it. We'll just mix them up here, 1-to-1 mix, and we'll darken in here. We'll also put this along the bottom and bring it up into the pumpkin a little bit. So a 1-to-1 mix, burnt orange, cad orange, burnt orange, cat orange, 1-to-1. Let's put some along the bottom here. Kind of walk it up into the pumpkin. Just a little bit. We're not going to cover up all that yellow, so just kind of walk it up onto the pumpkin a little bit. Start giving it some orangey stuff going on. I'm going to put a little bit more in this center section. I really want that to be dry. 1-to-1 mix. Burnt orange, cad orange. Burnt orange, cad orange. Dry that real quick because I want that to be dry. I need to bring it up into there a little bit more. more water. 1 burnt orange, 1 cat orange. Mix, mix, mix. Bottom. Walk it up just a little bit. Let's mop that. We want to go next to the pumpkin here and darken that right through here. And we're going to mop, soften, and settle it down in there where it needs to be. We definitely need this to be much darker. So I think I'm going to get that dry, and then I'm going to use just burnt orange on it. Okay, let's see if this is dry enough. We're going to use just burnt orange now. Work that into my angle brush here. We're going to put this just along the bottom and work it up a little bit. And next to this pumpkin here. Mop and soften and gently blend that. That makes that look a little bit better. I'm liking that. So let's get ready for some highlights on this one. We will probably come back in and darken a little bit down here at the bottom like we did this one. We will keep it more to this area. I do want to bring that cad orange and burnt orange mix a little bit more up here on this. Okay, that looks much better. And now let's add some highlights on here. And we're going to go with our bright yellow. I'm not going to mix it with anything because we're putting it on a yellow base color. So we're going to go on the opposite sides. I'm not going to go down real far down there. I'm going to bring it up on the top here and flatten my brush so that it comes over a little bit. Staying on my toe in these tighter sections here. And then right, oh, oops. There, and we'll put a little bit here. Once we get our stem, I could not think of what that was called for nothing. Once we get our stem on there, you know, we may not see some of that, but that's good for our first highlight. So for our second highlight, we're going to add a little bit of white to our bright yellow. Let me get some fresh white out. Let's mix our white with our yellow 1 to 1, and this will get us our brightest highlight for on here. And we're going to put it right here, 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 and here, and then a little bit on this side. Bit right here where the moon is going to hit it right there. We have a section here, but I'm not really sure how much of that's going to be seen after we get our face on there. So now we're ready to draw our face on and get ready to paint it in. Okay, I've got this mouth drawn on here, or mouth and eyes. So it's basically just some big circle eyes. They can be irregularly shaped and some kind of open mouth. So let me get some fresh black out, and we're going to paint in our black areas. water in that black. That's kind of thick. Okay, then inside the mouth here, now you can paint all yellow inside this mouth if you want to make it different from the other one. If I had thought about that, that's probably what I would have done, but I didn't think about it. So they're just both going to have black mouths. Well, they'll probably all end up having black mouths, but okay, so that's the inside part of the mouth and the inside of the eyes. This one doesn't have a nose on it, so hopefully you're on camera for that. So I want to paint the wedge, thickness of the wedge there. I'm going to use the Cad Red, or Cad Orange. I'm not sure what color I got here. It might be Cad Red. Yep, Cad Red. So all of my mixings were with Cad Red, not Cad Yellow, or Cad Orange. I said Cad Orange, but Cad Red is the one that I actually had out here on my palette when I was mixing my burnt orange, because that's Cad Orange, this is Cad Red, so I will change that on my instructions because I already typed in that I used Cad Orange, but I used Cad Red. So we're going to give this guy some bright little stuff going on here. Not worried about getting it in my black there. Touch all that up. So I'll just touch all that up on my black sections where I got the orange in there. Red, I guess I should say. Okay, we're gonna brighten up. Okie dokie, let's highlight inside. We're gonna mix white and bright yellow 1-to-1 here. This may turn a little green looking, so to do it a couple of times. We're going to highlight inside the eye here. Definitely need some water. I need to spritz my palette again. I'm just using a float of color inside there. We're going to come back and brighten that up and make it really nice looking. Bright yellow and white. Mix, mix, blend, blend, blend. Okay, I'm going to remove a little bit of paint off my brush. And then we're just going to create our... I got this upside down, so I'm not really sure how that's going to look. Looks pretty creepy if you ask me. Looks like he has teeth. We're going to brighten that with just yellow because I want it to look more like a yellow glow. So I think I need some fresh bright yellow out here. And we'll repeat all of those. That gave us a nice foundation to get a nice bright yellow on here. And you'd probably like to be on camera. Hope you were on camera for when I was doing it a while ago. Probably not. Please don't send me horrible, horrible emails. Okay. And then now I think we can just add a little touch of white for a a little bright highlight. You can use a detail liner. I'm just using a small round brush here. Okay. Super creepy looking. So I want to shade on the pumpkin to darken it up a little bit down in this area and next to this pumpkin right here. So I'm going to use my burnt orange and mix a tiny little bit of black in with it. Let's take some lamp black and let's see if my burnt orange is still usable. Get some water. Spritzing water on my palette so I can have it to blend and mix this paint. Just burnt orange and a little bit of lamp black. It's just going to make a really dirty orange here. And we're going to go right next to this pumpkin here and then bring it down along the bottom. Mop brush and soften that. Yeah, I think that guy's done until we do his stem. He looks pretty darn cute, I think. This is the Boo Crew. I've titled this piece Boo Crew. So, fun, fun, fun. Alright, we're going to go work on the other guy here. And we're just going to darken the shading on him a little bit. Let me erase my lines off of this one. We're just going to darken it just a little bit. He won't need a ton of color added to him. A little bit of black. I'm going to work it into my brush so that it thins down a little bit. And we're going to put this in right next to that line. Okay, we also want to put this along the bottom. This one will be the easiest one, I think, to paint. That was pretty sheer float of just black. So I think I might make a dark gray and put dark gray at the bottom on this one. So that's the white and the black mixed together to make a dark to medium gray. Based on the color that your pumpkin turned out being when you mixed your base color. So we're going to do a dark gray down here. I want to definitely cover up all of the white lines at the bottom. So, alright, I'm going to have to mop that before it starts drying too much. And we'll come back and repeat. Black, white, dark gray. Could be a medium gray. You know, it just depends on the value of yours. I'm going to add a little bit of this color in to my sections in just a few places, not in every place. Okay. I think my bottom is dry enough. I can put another layer on here, and then we need to do next to this pumpkin, and now I'm going to mop. Okay. Okay, that guy's looking pretty good. He's not going to take a whole lot. We'll darken along the bottom here after we get his face drawn in, but he's really just a couple of floats of a dark gray. When we get done, we may float some lamp black along here because this part is really in the shadows down here, but we're going to get ready to highlight on this one now. So we'll be highlighting on this one with just white. So we'll put a little bit here. I'm going to have to bring my shading color up on this edge a little bit more here. Some here and here. Okay, so I definitely need to float along this back edge a little bit. That's our black and white mixed together to make a dark gray. Medium to dark gray based on what your pumpkin color is, okay? Darken right there. I need to a little bit more black. And darken right here. Okay. I might brighten the highlight real quick, and then we're going to put our face on. These pumpkins should come together pretty quickly. There's not an extreme a lot of detail, and most of us have done a lot of pumpkins, so they should go together pretty quickly. Let's put the eyes on. I do want to add bring the highlight down just a little bit more here. Get our line drawing on for our face. I've got his eyes drawn on here, so we're going to paint them in with black. He's going to be a pretty easy one, I think. Thin my black down, that's really thick. And you can make your face however you want to make them. If you have a different look for a facial feature, then go ahead and do that. So just outline it and then fill it in. Just using straight black here. Okay. A little bit more water in my paint here. It's not wanting to flow off of my brush. Alright, we'll let him dry and see if we need to touch up anywhere. We're going to give him a little highlight in his eyes as well. Okay, let's give him a highlight in his eyes. Oops, blacken my brush. Don't want black in there. Just want the straight white. And a little bit in his mouth. And then we need to shade next to this pumpkin with lamp black. Make it a nice sheer wash of lamp black so that it's not turning your pumpkin black. Okay, this is just a little shadow here, so we're just going to scoot that around there and then very gently mop that. And I'm going to put some along the bottom and along that edge, mop it. This is dry. I want to put a little bit more here. I don't want it to disappear into our background. I just want to darken that a little bit. Okay, I think that'll finish that guy up. I think he looks pretty good. So we're ready to work on the stems next. So we're going to do the stems and the leaves, and then we're going to do our little frog guy. Alrighty, all the stems are going to be done the exact same way. So I'm going to do one, and then I'll go off camera and finish the other two, and then we'll come back and work on the leaves. We want to base them in with cocoa. And I'll probably take a couple of coats, so let's get a couple of coats on here, and then if you need to put your lines back on so that you can tell where how your stem is shaped, you can do that. Right now, if you need it on, is a good idea to put it on so you know how the how it goes onto the pumpkin here. We'll come and add a little bit of shading onto our pumpkin underneath our stems when they're done. And I'm not going to worry about the frog right now, so I'll just go and do my thing with my stem. The frog we will worry about when we get to it. Okay, let's do this guy. I'm not going to vary up the colors on these, except for that one. I might make it a little bit more lighter. Give it maybe I might want to paint it in with a gray, give it a gray stem. I haven't decided yet if I want that one to be a gray stem or not. So right now they're all going to be just this color. But I think if I put a gray stem on that one, it's just going to be nothing but gray there. So I'm going to let this dry and get a second coat on. Got 2 coats on my stems now. So I'm just going to finish the one in the center here. I'm not going to paint these other ones. They're going to be done the exact same way, with the exact same colors. Okay, so I'm going to go down to a 1/4 inch angle brush now, And I'm going to grab some burnt umber, and we're going to start shading on our, oh goodness, on our project here. Let me spritz my palette. I got a clean piece of palette paper, so let me get some water on it so I have that. Alright, so we're going to float our shading. I'm going to go on, I think I'll go on this side here on the top and make that our highlight edge from the moon. So just a soft little float. Okay, we're going to do these areas here where I drew some lines, and you can go on whichever side you want to go on them. And we'll just bring those up for some deeper little valleys in here. I might add a couple more in here, maybe some short ones. We're also going to go underneath this line that we drew here. So it's on both sides of that line. Alright, so now I want to erase my lines that I got on here. I'm going to put a little black out because we will be darkening. We'll create like a little soft black color by mixing black and our burnt umber together. So let's add a little bit of highlight on here. I'm going to take my cocoa, let me get it out here. Actually, well, I'll put a little bit out. I'm going to get Oyster Beige out. That was what we used in the base coat of this one. And I'm going to mix the Oyster Beige and the cocoa together to get me a highlight. Let's just start with an equal mix. One, maybe two cocos and one Oyster Beige. And we'll start with a little highlight up here. Oh yeah, that's a really nice mix. And I'm just going to make it a little irregular. I don't want perfect stuff here. I want that to be shaded on that side. We're going to highlight a little bit here, through here. Just kind of dry brush highlighting here. And we'll go along this edge here. I'm going to put a little bit right here. That moon is probably hitting it a little bit more. Alright, I'm going to get some burnt umber because I need to shade this edge over here. This is definitely in the shadow. And now I'm going to mix a little bit of black with it. Black and burnt umber. We're going to make like a soft black color. Okay? So we're going to go into our darkest shadowy areas and put a little bit of this in there. We're not filling in every area. A little bit more burnt umber in there because that's a little darker than what I wanted. Go along this edge. Underneath our top edge there. Bring that around just a little bit, and then we'll go on the top of the top, a part of the stem, and we'll add a little bit. I think I'll wipe off and get just burnt umber here, and put a little bit down here at the base. So just play around with it and you know, put some colors on there where you kind of like them. I'm going to do my highlight again. I'm going to do that equal mix of cocoa and Oyster Beige. And you don't have to really stress out about giving these tons of detail. They're not the focal point. So we just want to know that they are stems. So I need a little bit more burnt umber in here. Kind of brown them up a little bit. Burnt umber is very transparent, so we can just kind of wash this over the whole thing and get a nice brown color. Now we need to shade underneath the stem. And our shading colors were, well, let me look back because it's been a little bit since I did that one. Middle pumpkin cat red, and then we darkened with Georgia clay. So let's grab some Georgia clay. There it is. And I'm going to mix with my Georgia clay. Down here, you remember I mixed some black with it. So I'm going to do that here, a little tiny bit of black, and with my Georgia clay, it's just going to dirty it up. You could use the burnt umber as well if you wanted, you know, if your pumpkin's already, if it's a little bit lighter than mine and the black will just be too dark, then you can mix the burnt umber with it. And I'm still just using this 1/4 inch angle so that I don't get a ton of paint on my brush. And we're just going to go underneath all this stuff and give it a little bit of shadow. It's going to have some darker areas, these little crevices that really push up in there. They're going to be darker. Okay, so just a nice little shading underneath there. I think I will go ahead and use this color and wash a little bit of this onto our stem on this side. Got our frog to put on, so we're going to add some more colors onto our stem. I think it needs a couple of more little lines coming off of it, maybe. This is burnt umber and black mixed together, but not very much black because you can see it's a little bit lighter than what I used before. Okay, I think I'm going to go with just straight oyster beige now for the final highlight on here instead of snow white, because I think it's going to be bright enough. And we'll put a little bit through here. Well, it's mostly going to be up here. Okay. We'll probably put a little tint of yellow on that for the glow from the moon. We're also going to be darkening our shading down here at the bottom of all of these to really make them look like they are in the shadow down here. So that is how I want you to finish your other stems, with your burnt umber, a little bit of burnt umber and black to make a soft black color, your mix of cocoa and oyster beige for your highlight, and then a brighter highlight of just oyster beige, and then the soft black mix underneath to give your stem a little bit of shadow underneath them. And I'm going to go finish these two, come back, and we're going to darken down here and then work on our leaves. So once you get your stems done, you can go ahead and transfer your other leaves, and then we will come back and work on them. I've got all my stems done here. I want to do the float along the bottom of these with some lamp black. Now I'm going to create a nice amount of wash of lamp black. I'll try and get my palette and camera so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm using a 1/2 inch angle brush, and I'm really thinning this down with some water to get a nice sheer color. And then we're going to go along the bottoms of our pumpkins and kind of push them down into the background a little bit. Put them more in the shadow area. And then we're going to mop. Ooh, it's really wet. We don't want any hard lines. Probably like to be on camera. We just want them to look more in the shadow down here at the bottom, so that they're not standing on top. Okay, let me move this back over so I can have it back in camera shot. I just want to see how, I just wanted you to see how much I was thinning that black paint down so that it was just a sheer wash of color. Nothing incredibly dark. I do need to touch up right here with some black. And then once you're done with your pumpkins, you can go ahead and touch up the black around them if you want to. We're going to get ready to do our leaves next, our frog after that, and then we'll finish up with our moon and any details after that. So I'm going to get the rest of my leaves transferred on here. Alright, I got my leaves on here. One tip I want to give you, if you've never used a mop brush before, you're using it dry, clean it after every time that you use it. And then clean it on a damp place on your paper towel and dry it off on a dry spot. That way when you go to use it again, you're not, once you get it wet, it reactivates the paint that's in the end of it that you mopped, and you could be moving paint all around your project that you don't want. So just a little tip there. Alright, we are going to paint our leaves in. We might go ahead and use the green that we used out here. It's kind of a dark green, so I might add, what do I want to add to it? I might add some bright yellow to it and see if we can't lighten it up just a little bit. We'll see how this works. Grab whatever brush you like to use to paint leaves in with, smaller areas in. So I'm going to mix 3 yellow to 1 jewel green. So we don't have to have a whole bunch of different colors. And make your leaves any shape that you want. 3 bright yellows, 1 jewel green. We'll have to do a couple of coats. This is going to give us some nice bright leaves. And I only did leaves on the 2 outer pumpkins because that guy gets the frog. So we'll take 2 coats. So you want to get 2 coats on there. So I'm going to get them dry and get the second coat on. Okay, we're going to keep our leaves a little bit more on the simple side, so we're not going to do a whole lot of detail to them. First thing I want to do though is put the vine stuff on. So I'm going to take my jewel green and mix a tiny little bit of black or burnt umber or orange, any color that you have on your palette that you want to darken your green with, because it really does not matter what color you use, just as long as you get that green a little bit darker. I'm just going to use a little bit of burnt umber, and we're going to add our little vine stuff going on here. And bring it down onto our leaves. And into our leaves. And I'll come in and erase all these white lines when we're done. We're going to add just a little bit of highlight on them. Not a lot of detail, again, is going into this. These are just you know, accent stuff, filler stuff. Okay, so then on the vines we're just going to take some of that bright yellow and add a little highlight in a couple of places, maybe where the moonlight is hitting on it. let these dry, and then we'll come in and erase our graphite lines here. Okay, so that's probably going to get us enough highlight on there until we get those lines erased and we can tell where we need to go with that. So let's take that dark green mix that we made, and we're going to shade at the back of the leaf, or the base. I'm going to darken that a little bit more, so I'm going to add a tiny little bit of black in there. And we'll add a little bit of shading here and here. Bring that center vein in if you lost it. Kind of lost mine. Okay, we're not going to do tons on these. We just want them to be some super quick little leaves. So the darker green, we'll just use our base color mix, or no, not the base color mix, because our base color was a mix of color. We're using the jewel green plus some black, and just putting that in here where our shaded side and stuff will be. And then we're going to highlight with that bright yellow. They are just going to be some quick, simple leaves. We can come back when we're done if we need to add like a bright highlight of white. I've got way too much water in my brush, so let me rinse that out. Yeah, we'll have to do the bright yellow a couple of times, I think, because it's fading down in there pretty quickly into that green. Might have to mix a little bit of white with it, so well, let me get it dry so I can erase my lines here. Okay, I think I got it dry. Let me erase all the lines that are here. That's going to help us visually be able to see all of everything that's going on here. Yep, we're definitely going to have to brighten that, so let me grab some white out. We're going to mix some white and yellow together. Trying to keep us from having a whole lot of colors that we have to have on this project. I'm going to add a little bit of that green in there just because I want a little tint of green. So white and yellow, and then add just a touch of that jewel green, jewel green in there. So it's not a super bright yellow or white, because that white's really going to turn it opaque. So let's just mix that in there, and we'll keep that from happening. Okay, that's really pretty much all we're going to do to the leaves. We'll probably come back and add a little bit of orange or maybe some purple or blue, because we put that back here in the sky. We're going to bring it down into the project before we finish this project. So we'll be adding it in several different places. Let me get a little bit of burnt umber back out because I want to shade around my viney stuff. So I'm going to mix my burnt umber and a little bit of black to make that soft black look color. And then we're going to just kind of line underneath our vine stuff and create a little bit of a shadow on them. And if you can't see it, add just a tiny bit more black in there. Be super careful with that black. It will just take over your whole project. We're just putting a little shadow kind of underneath those vines. And we can put a little shadow under the leaves as well, wherever they're kind of over the pumpkin. Just this one over here gets a little bit of a shadow. Alright, that finishes up the leaves until we start pulling the sky color down into everything. We're going to paint our cute little frog next. Let's take some bright yellow, not bright yellow, moon yellow. I'll get my words out here. and a little bit of bright yellow. We're going to mix these two together. Goodness gracious, I can't even talk. We're going to mix them together, and we're going to paint in the frog's belly. So I'm going to grab one of each. Actually, two bright yellow, one moon yellow. And we're just going to paint in his belly real quick. Alright. Let's paint in, I'm going to grab a round brush, and we're going to paint in the frog himself. We're going to take our jewel green and mix bright yellow with it. So I'm just going to do an equal mix, and we're going to paint in all of his parts here. It's going to take a couple of coats. Little toes on here. You can only see two toes on this back foot, and then we've got 3 on this front one here, and then this one's kind of wrapped around the trunk of the tree here, and then we have his other leg over here. And then his head. I'm just going to paint right over the eye, where the white part of the eyes go, because I'm just going to come back in and put that eye circle back in, because it's just too hard to paint around that little tiny circle right there. Okay, so we've got a first coat on our frog. He's going to take 2 or 3 coats probably, because he's a bright little frog. We want him to be a bright little frog. He's going to have a good little glow from the moon coming on him. We're going to add glow from the moon onto the pumpkins. We've got a few more steps left to go to get the pumpkins done, but they're up to where they need to be right now. So we just want to get this cute little guy dry and a second coat on him. I'm just going to go with just straight bright yellow, I think. Maybe when I do his chest for the second coat, we'll see how it shows up. I might have to add a little bit of that moon yellow in there. So he's probably dry enough. We can go into our second coats and get him more opaque. And yep, I'm going to have to add a little bit of moon yellow in there. And there seems to be a little bit of green in my brush, so it's alright. We need to float some green on his belly anyway, so, and put some green down at the bottom. So we'll just do that. I do want to tap that with my mop brush and not have so much liney detail in there from my little brush. And let's go to our green mix, which was our jewel green and our bright yellow, an equal mix. Paint this guy's second coat in. I think he's pretty much going to need a third coat, so and we'll get his head in here. He is going to be a cute one, I'm telling you right now. He's going to be so stinking cute. You could bring the yellow up onto the face as well, but I think I'm going to keep it right down there on just the belly area, because the frog's lighter color does come up on their face. But, you know, I'm going to take creative license here and just have a little bit of fun with him. So That's the second coat. Let's get it dry and apply a third coat, this time on the chest, just bright yellow. Got my third coat on here. I want my green on his belly to be right there, but we need to bring a line down here right below the belly. And then you'll have to put 3 coats on that as well, so that, you know, a little bit of his body is showing there. It doesn't have to be quite as big as what I just made it, but you want a little line of green right below there. Okay, I kind of drew some lines on there so you can see where we're going to be going. Let's take some white and paint in his eye. And we'll probably have to do it a couple of times. Try and get them the same size. I know that's not always an easy thing to do when you're painting so small, but do your best. I did put some lines on here so you can kind of see where we're going to be shading. So we're going to take our jewel color, our jewel green, and some black. I'm going to get some fresh of both out. We're going to mix that dark green color, jewel green. We're going to be putting some citron green on this little guy here. Let's mix that to make just a dark green color. And we're going to use this for our shading color. See if it's going to show up on here. And I'm just on the tip of the brush, kind of just scrubbing a little bit of color into that guy right there. Try and zoom in without getting you off camera. So we're going to go along the tiny little bit more black in there. Right along there, inside the little knee there. Using just a 1/4 inch angle brush because this is grab a little bit more green in the mix so we can go underneath here. I'm going to use a little bit more of the green and go next to the arm here. And down around the belly. Next to this arm and down around. It's green and black, but it had more green in it than what we did the shading on the legs out there. See if the eyes are dry enough for me to erase those lines that I put on there. And let's do one more quick little coat of white on there just to smooth it out if we can. Mine don't look like they're smoothing out too well. Okay. So next, we're going to give him a little black dot in his eyes. This way his eyes can be drying. While we work on some of the other areas of him. I'm going to put some citron green out, and we're going to start adding a little highlight, some dots on him. Okay, let's take some of the citron green, see how well. This is the color we used out in the back, or along the border. Let's see if this is going to brighten him up a little bit. Definitely have to do it more than once. We want to give him some little speckly stuff on his legs and on his face. Some little dots. Use my small little detail brush here. I'm going to get some of this to put on the toes. This is citron green. I know on the camera shot, to me it looks like it's showing white, but it is citron. Erase some lines over here. Okay, I'm going to take the jewel green and add some little dots on him. I'm hoping they're going to show up on his face here. And on his knees. Maybe a couple down his arms. We're going to highlight some more on him. Let's take some citron and add some of that color on with some dots. On the knees as well. I don't want him to be too difficult of a frog for you, so I'm going to try and keep him a little bit on the easier side. Let's put a little bit of this jewel green down here on his belly some more. I want to bring it up a little bit. Got a ton of water in my brush there. Oops, should use the mop brush there instead of my finger. Okay. The citron green I want to highlight again. Especially on the top of the head where it's getting quite a bit of the sunlight, and on the side, or moonlight. I'm just out of those dots that I did because I know they are not dry. Down this arm a little bit, along the toes. Need to separate that leg and that arm a little bit. I did not do a very good job of separating. That's the citron there that we're using. Let me do my shading color so I can separate the leg, the foot from the arm there, the back. I'll spit it out here in a minute. The back leg from the front leg, because the two feet look like they were just kind of blended together right there. Okay, a little bit underneath here. I'm going to shade a little bit on the opposite side of the face. It's more in the shadow. Okay, let's add a little bit of white to the citron, and we'll do some bright highlights on here. We'll see if this is going to be, I just did an equal mix. This might be too bright. Well, I think I did an equal mix. Maybe I didn't. 1 and 1. Does not make his two eyes match. The shape of his eyes do not match. Okay? Oh my goodness gracious. Well, let's take some citron and jewel green and mix them together and make a wash. Just an equal mix of them. And let's wash some of this over. Maybe a little bit more of the citron. Just a little. brightening. We can stay out of the shadow areas. It'll look much better once he has a mouth, so. So let's put a mouth on him with some black. Just gonna give him a little frog smile. I want to shade around him on the trunk thing, so we're going to use our black and the burnt orange mixed together. Gives us a dirty orange. And we'll kind of tap that in there. Bit of a shadow around him. Not a very good one. It's kind of tight instead of more loose. Okay. I'm going to wash a little bit of the well, I'm going to put my turquoise and my purple out that we did in the sky. I think I'm going to put some purple on the frog. Just a little float of color. A kiss from the sky. I'll definitely have to repeat that. We're going to put the purple and some turquoise on our leaves. So you just pick some places you want to put some, and it doesn't have to be all of them, just be a couple. And wide angle out so you can see both of the pumpkins. I put some there, there, and there. I'm going to have to repeat it because it's already faded down in there. This purple is not super opaque, so it's not going to sit on top like you know, some of the other purples would. So we'll just repeat that and just a little bit. I'm going to go down here. Let's see, which pumpkin do I want to put a little bit of purple on? I think this one over here will look pretty with some purple on it. I'll have to repeat that, of course. Some here. Let's put some on this big guy here in the center because I think he could use some purple on him. And this is where I just want you to pick different areas within your pumpkin to add some of these colors. They don't have to be in all the same places that I'm putting them. Wipe that off with my finger. Just a couple of places. Let's grab the turquoise and add some of that. I want to put some of this on the stems for sure. So this could be an extra shadowy color on our stems. I really like that. So just kiss some of that on there. Don't have to have a lot. You will have to repeat though because it will fade in there. I'm going to put some on a leaf or two or just one. And then this guy, let's put some on him. Let's put some over here in his shadow area. Put a little bit on this guy too. Just be playful with it and move it around your project. little blue on the frog here. And then repeat all those blue places. If you can remember where they're at. I gotta repeat the purple there. On the stems, you don't necessarily have to get it too dark. Alright, let me repeat my purple. Especially down here, because that is not showing up at all. And then above this guy's eye, right here. And just kind of carry it around and have fun with it. You don't have to do very much, or you know, you don't really have to do any at all if you don't want to, but I think a little bit will definitely help it. Putting a little bit of orange. That's my burnt orange up there. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I really need to add my stems into my leaves a little bit darker. Because they were just disappearing. Okay, that looks better. I think our frog is super cute. I think I might put a little bit more of the citron, maybe mix some bright yellow with it to really brighten it up on our frog. Just kind of tapping some around him, just wanting to be a little bit brighter. That was citron and bright green mixed together, just an equal mix of that. All right, let's do our pumpkin. I can already see that my leaves need more brightness on them, so I'm going to take the citron green and put some of this on here. And try and give them a little bit brighter edge to them. So this is, you know, you can't always tell when you start, you know, based on the colors that you put throughout the project, you know, am I going to need to add more color somewhere? It's always hard to say. Kind of made them shaped funny there. Okay. Alright, I'm going to leave that there for now. I think it looks pretty good. I do see an issue with some shading right here. Make it just a little darker. Okay, that looks better. Much better. Alrighty. Alright, any place you see you want to touch up on there, then you can just do that. Let's do our moon. I'm going to wide angle out a little bit. You can see it a little bit better. Let's do our moon now, and then we are going to add a border line around here with, I'm thinking one of the colors that I put into the sky. So our moon won't take very much to finish. I'm not sure how much detail I'm going to give it because it's not really a focal point, but we want to put some of that glow of the moon onto our project a little bit. Okay, let's do the moon. We're going to shade on the moon with a deep ochre. It was a color that we used on this pumpkin over here. You could also add some of this color onto your leaves. That would be gorgeous. I actually forgot that I used this color, or I would have put some of this on my leaves. So I'm going to shade this bottom edge down here, what I'm calling the bottom edge, with the deep ochre. Now we can put a glow around this moon if you want to, just by dry brushing some yellow around it. But I'm not going to do that. I normally have done that with all of my moons, but this one I'm going to keep it a little bit more playful and simple. I'm going to take the bright yellow and white and mix them together, an equal mix, and add a highlight on the other side of the moon. I'm going to bring it over to that ochre color and try to blend them while they're still wet a little bit. And now I just want to take this color that I mixed, this yellow and white, or you can use the ochre if you want something a little bit more muted. Actually, I'm just going to grab the bright yellow because that, and we're going to put some of this, just kiss it here and there on the project, wherever maybe some of the glow from the moon is the brightest. I'm just going to go with this bright yellow and put some on here. Even on this guy here, he might need a little wash of yellow on him from the moon. Just brighten up everything. This guy's not going to get a whole lot of moon glow from him. Maybe the tip of this leaf over here is going to get, ooh, it's going to get a ton of yellow. Maybe it's getting a little kiss from that moon. So you can put this yellow on here as many times as you want. It's a very transparent color, so it's not going to hurt anything. Put a little bit here, put a little highlight there on that. You might want to do a detail liner to do these viney things, but I think that looks pretty good. A little bit more right there for my liking. Okay, I think we're looking good. I want to add just a little bit more of that white and yellow mix on the moon, just along that edge. Brighten it up. So a little bit more white in the mix. So we're going to do a line around this, and I think I'm going to use the purple. I hope it's opaque enough for me. If you're using, you know, a lavender or turquoise blue, you could use one of those. But I'm just going to kind of freehand it just at a line along. Oops, pushed a little hard there. I'm going to use my brush and remove some of that. Damp brush. I actually think I might have to mix a little bit of white with this because I think it's a little too dark and it's fading. Just mix a little bit of white in with that brilliant purple. Not too much. I feel like I got a little bit too much white there. You could use the orange. Of course, the turquoise would really look nice as well. And then when we get this done, you can decide if your sky needs a little bit more of, oh, crapola. There we go. Big old mess. Thankfully I have a black background. Don't forget when you get done, if you want to touch up anything in your background, just touch it up. That was like, whew, I hit the edge of this and popped it up. So right when I was putting the brush down. So I mixed just a little bit of white in with my purple. That's going to make it a little more opaque. So you only have to do this line one time. And I'm not pushing hard on my brush. I am loading my brush up with a lot of paint, but I am not pushing hard. Fresh paint, that's going to be key here. Okay, that's going to do it for this project. I think right there I am done with it. I am happy with it. I love it for the fall. Oh my gosh. This is the Boo Crew, y'all. You want to go find the Boo Crew this Halloween because they are out there having fun. Alright, I had a great time painting this one with you guys. Again, this surface is on my website if you are interested in this surface. And I think it's my vintage sign plaque. So if you're interested in that, it's a good one to paint up. A lot of fun. I had a great time. I hope you did too. If you are watching on my YouTube channel, please give me a thumbs up, like, share, and comment. I appreciate you all. You have no idea how much I appreciate you. I hope you had fun with this one, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.